Welcome to Opinionated Creators. You listen to J and Cay. I'm Jay. This is Cay.
How you doing, brother?
All right. Another episode of Creative Development Tuesdays.
Jeez, man, time flies. I feel like, it really feels like we just sit down and record these back to back. That's what it really feels like to me. It's like every time I turn around, it's like, God damn, another one.
Yeah, man.
But it's fun. I love it. So.
we do record back to back, guys.
Yeah, we do actually record back to back.
So today's video is going to be about, or today's podcast. I always say video because I know that I'm going to post this on YouTube too.
Right.
But today's podcast is going to be about Doctor Strange. My actual favorite superhero in the comics.
Oh, the eye of Agamotto compels you.
He may be a fucking weirdo, but he is powerful as shit. And nobody will question that.
Well, 70s.
He's still powerful.
Yeah, he's still powerful. The good thing about it is he's starting to get that power cap back. Like that power level back from the 70s. Yeah, he had to sell his soul to do it, but fuck it. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, man, to save reality and shit.
I mean, he literally sold his soul to Johnny Storm, who became king of hell, so he can raise Las Vegas from hell. And he did it fantastically. And then Johnny Storm also whipped Mephisto's ass with all of the fucking past and present ghostwriters, and then kicked Mephisto out of hell and was like, here, Doctor Strange, you deal with him. Since he started this shit in the first place.
Yeah. Johnny's pretty cool.
Yeah. Doctor Strange is pretty dope, though.
Yeah. So today, MCU, Doctor Strange instead of comics. Still love the comics. But Doctor Strange, man. So first, I want to start this video off with, what did you think of Doctor Strange?
Oh, I fucked with the movie. I love magic. Anything and everything, whether it's like that crazy Sabrina dark blood magic or like the mystical, magical, flimsical Wizards of Waverly Place magic. I love the humbleness of the story. Like, you got this guy that's so high on his fucking pedestal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it takes like a life-threatening car crash and like life-changing event
and
to literally knock him down a few pegs.
And
it ultimately made him a better person for it.
This film gave Marvel the greatest hashtag you could give a film. Hashtag don't text and drive, especially with a fucking iPad.
Mm-hmm. The thing that really kind of was like irritated me in that scene was that you going at least 120 around the fucking rainy ass bend, and you steadily looking down at your phone for literally seconds at like more than 5 seconds at a time.
Yeah, like
you ain't glancing up and down. You like looking.
Yeah, you're analyzing these photos, and I think where there's relatability in this film, the biggest relatability for this film is that everyone either knows someone that has lost somebody or has been seriously injured or has been seriously injured themselves in a car accident.
Yeah.
And that's where, this relatability, it doesn't matter if whether it's due to recklessness or just sheer mishap and accident. We all have heard those stories, and I think that's where this film really calls to home for the audience. We can relate to being in a car accident.
Yeah, I was in numerous ones.
Yeah, and we can even relate so much to the idea that a car accident can permanently damage somebody to the point of irreparability. Like, they cannot repair it. Whether that's they lose their legs, they lose their ability to move. And in Doctor Strange, higher brain function. And in Doctor Strange's case, it's his ability to use his hands.
Mm-hmm. He has severe nerve damage in both his hands, from his fingers all the way up to his wrist.
And like you said, when we see Stephen Strange for the first time, He's on a high pedestal, a high as hell pedestal. He's proven number 2 surgeons wrong in mid-operation, embarrassing they ass. Able to listen to songs and sing a tune while doing brain surgery. This is how intelligent this man is and how confident he is. He is literally the Tony Stark of the surgical world.
Yeah.
And it's like you really see this parallel throughout the whole film when it comes to not just the idea of personalities between the similarities between Doctor Strange and Tony Stark's personalities, because in the comics, their personalities are almost the same before Doctor Strange becomes Doctor Strange. And their personalities are like that even in the MCU.
Which is really funny because in the comics, it's like when Stephen becomes, Sorcerer Supreme, his personality changes drastically. Tony's really doesn't. So like when they finally like meet and like team up, like in the newer continuity, like when they meet up and team up, and like Doctor Strange just can't even deal with Tony.
Yeah, he can't stand his ego.
He just can't even stand it.
Just like how we saw in Infinity War, which I absolutely loved. It's unfortunate we're not going to see anymore.
I'm really sad that we didn't get the super awesome mustache bros moment. Because like they both have really cool beards and stuff, and it's like it's a moment that they have in the comics. And like I said, it starts off when Doctor Strange just can't stand Iron Man. But over the years, Iron Man has that repertoire of like just growing on
like
you.
A fungus.
That Doctor Strange literally accepts that, and like I guess when he was quote unquote dead or whatever and transported into a younger body, Stephen Strange finally admitted that they are a couple bros that have pretty dope mustaches. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, this film really shows a lot of parallels between the two. One, in the sense of this is a film all about magic, where Tony's is a film all about technology. And everyone knows magic and technology aren't the same, but Thor said it. There comes a point where they're no different.
Well, magic and science.
Technology is part of science.
But yeah. Okay.
So... And it's interesting because Stephen Strange starts off as a man of science and is pulled over, I guess, as a man of faith into magic, which I love this film because it lays down the laws to things that are lawless. It defines how magic works in the MCU, and it does it pretty clear cut without much restriction. They channel the energies from other dimensions, tapping into the source code of their own to manipulate reality around them. And that's magic.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize, but there is an insane amount of research that was done for this film.
Oh, hell yeah.
Not just in the glyphs that they use for the spells, because those glyphs are actual glyphs, not for spells, but they are sacred forms, different forms of sacred geometry, which for those who don't know what sacred geometry is, sacred geometry is a form of intertwining or intersecting geometry or geometrical shapes that you literally find. There's set patterns that you can literally find throughout the real world in nature, whether you're looking at a microscopic level at a flower or at crystalline DNA. You can start seeing these same patterns. Like the tree of life is one of these patterns in sacred geometry that is so revered in religion. And you can see the visual research that they did to make, and that's partially how Doctor Strange's powers seem so, or Doctor Strange's film is so believable.
Right.
Because it pulls from actual real world research, real world science with a fantastical spin to explain this shit that we just don't understand yet in the real world. And that's essentially how you start to make up magic, you don't start off with, oh, well, this spell does this and this spell does that. That's very restrictive in the sense of you have no rules to what make magic up. Where's your magic coming from? Is it from self or is it from universe? And we have yet to see anybody and I would argue, cause like, I think this is something that we may see in Scarlet Witch's show, that you can have magic within you, her chaos magic.
Right.
Which is a form of magic that Scarlet Witch in the comics uses. Versus Doctor Strange, who channels magic from various dimensions, like the dark dimension or the nightmare dimension or wherever he may pull from. I doubt the nightmare dimension because
in the comics, Scarlet Witch, I mean, see, when it comes to her, I can't remember the being. I want to say Sidorak, but I'm pretty sure it's not Sidorak. The being kind of like imbued his power into her because she was destined to be a vessel. But
the being is associated with the same type of being that Sidorak is. I know what you're talking about.
I think it's Sidorak. I don't know too for sure.
I can't recall either. But in the comics, there are certain beings that imbued. I don't think it's Sidorak because I think he was one of the only ones that imbued his essence instead of into people into an item, which is the stones. But he still has his own dimension in the MCU because the Crimson Bands of Sidorak was used in Infinity War by Doctor Strange.
And then as a side note, the Crimson, it's so funny because like we got the true Crimson Bands of Sidorak, but then in Doctor Strange the movie, that brace was at first, I think they retconned it, but like it was listed as a harness of Sidorak.
Yeah,
like the harness of Sidorak or something like that. And I think at the time, we couldn't use the Crimson Bands of Sidorak because of X-Men or something like that.
Yeah, like but by the time Infinity War came out, the rights were like, they had negotiated their way to using it. And he doesn't, and the thing about Doctor Strange is he doesn't need to say the spell. In the comics, he does, I believe. Like he has to do hand cast as well as like he says the spell that he does. I mean, and that could just be for comic panel reasons.
Comics, when he first was published, all he had was the hand cast. He had some incantations, but it was just because he was naming the spell. We've yet to
see the incantation Doctor Strange, so that could be his more powerful type of magic. I mean, his magic is on the level of tossing Thor around and Loki, which says a lot. One of the things that
smoke got in my eyes, guys.
That Doctor Strange introduces besides magic is they solidify the idea that the living tribunal exists by virtue of the staff of the living tribunal.
Mortal, the training scene between Mortal and Strange.
Yeah, and the living tribunal is kind of like, it's not God.
It's Judge, Jury, and Executioner.
Yeah.
He's the guy with the 3 heads, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, those 3 faces, from what I read somewhere, was supposed to act as Judge, Jury, and Executioner.
Yeah. That's to the balance of the universe.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see something like that, especially something like the Living Tribunal, because especially with the last line of Mortal basically saying like, all your bills come due eventually. And
too many wizards.
Not just too many wizards, but I
that was like his last line when he killed that guy.
Yeah, too many wizards. But I think it's bigger than that. I think it's because Doctor Strange manipulated time.
Well, yeah, Mordo was at least in the film. I'm not too familiar with his comic counterpart, but in the film, he was very religious with the ways of the mystic arts. He believed that you should only use it to benefit others and not yourself. So when he found out that the Ancient One was tapping into the dark dimension to prolong her life, that was like the ultimate backstab. And that's well, if you the Ancient One, the Sorcerer Supreme, can stoop this low, then anyone with access to magic can stoop this low.
And like, this villain that they use, this is where I'm going to like, essentially put a pause on the video like after I say this, but this villain where it wasn't necessarily intended to be an in-depth villain, but to more so show what's out there. But on that note, this is the end of part 1 for those on YouTube and those on the podcast, intermission.